Welcome to the first episode of Overthinking Old Jazz with me, Michael McQuaid. This episode is all about me overthinking one of the great jazz solos of all time, Frank Trumbauer's sax solo on Singin the Blues. It was recorded in New York on February the 4th, 1927 by Frankie Trumbauer and his orchestra with Bix and Lang for OK Records. The record has amazing solos from both Bix and Tram, and musicians have been copying them ever since the record was first issued. But many have speculated about whether Tram, who usually played C melody saxophone but did also play alto saxophone, might be playing alto on this recording. The possible arguments for alto include 1. The note choices fall naturally under the fingers on alto. 2. The tone is quite light, even for a C melody sax. And 3. The pitch range could be played on either instrument. Now, I've always felt it's C melody when I listen to the recording, but whenever I played it live on the alto, well, it sounds fine on that as well. So, here's the experiment. I wanted to test the two options, first by transcribing the solo, then performing it on each instrument in turn to see if I could find any clues, either in the experience of playing the solo on each instrument, or in listening back to the results. To this end, I recruited friend and ace London guitarist Curtis Volp to help me out. He learned the Eddie Lang accompaniment from the record, so what you're hearing is as close to the original saxophone and guitar playing as we could manage while sitting in my living room and recording it in 2020 on my phone. Now, I knew there would be one problem with this experiment. The C melody saxophone is quite rarely played, even by someone like me who specialises in 1920s and 30s jazz. It's tough to play if you aren't used to it because of its peculiar dimensions. It isn't really a bigger alto, it's a longer one. So it's more constricting to blow into, and it doesn't respond how alto and tenor saxophones do. Also, the fact that it's in concert pitch rather than B flat or E flat is surprisingly distracting for a sax player. You keep expecting it to sound in one place, and it sounds higher or lower. It's super hard to keep the weird old thing in tune with itself as well, which is pretty annoying. Add to all this the fact that I don't have Trumbauer's actual instruments, nor his mouthpieces, reeds, teeth or lungs, and it's basically just a fun experiment, not anything that can definitively prove which sax he was playing on the record. So anyway, here's the alto version of Singin the Blues. Still listening? Well, here's the C melody version. did you think? Which one sounds more like the Trumbauer solo on the record to you? Let's have a look at each of the transcriptions, alto and then C melody in turn, and I'll point out a few of the things that I noticed when I was either playing or listening back to these recordings. What can we learn from the alto version of this solo? Well, firstly, people often say that this solo falls under the fingers very easily on alto, and that's true. I did find it comfortable to play on alto. But I'm not sure that's saying all that much. I'm much more comfortable on the alto sax in general, and also the transposed key of C major is very easy to play in, so pretty much anything would fall under the fingers better, simply because of the key. Things like the lead into the solo, and the first phrases from bar 5 through 12 were comfortable on the alto, and I did feel like they sounded like the record. But there are some things later on that feel like clues that Tram is actually on C melody. Check out bar 13. The ghosted B, with the sudden bend up to a high D, is quite hard to play. Why would Tram have chosen to play that ghosted note? It's an unimportant note. He could have just left it out, or played a different note. It seems counterintuitive to me. Another thing that was a bit odd was the low C sharp in bar 26. That's quite a low note on alto, but Tram doesn't sound like he's playing very low during the solo. To me, that's another clue he's playing C melody. It was hard to get that sound of it being a low note, but not sounding like it. I admit, though, the last phrase in bars 35 and 36, well, that does sit very nicely on the alto. What about C melody, then? Does this seem more likely? My first reaction to playing this version was that it's a bit of a pain. It consistently takes you to the upper register of the instrument, which is quite uncomfortable to play. It's also harder on the fingers because you've got to play more flat notes because you're in concert E flat. But I guess Trumbauer was playing C melody most of the time, so maybe those things were a breeze for him. There are certain phrases that just sound better on the C melody though. Bars 9 and 10 have a strangely muted quality because of all those flat notes. Same for bars 19 and 20. It just sounds a bit strangulated in a nice way. Bars 25 and 26 feel really good on C melody, and sound much closer to the record, I think. Look at that low note again. It's only an E on C melody, and therefore it doesn't sound like it's at the extreme end of the instrument, like the matching C sharp did on alto. The last phrase is a bit of a finger breaker to begin with, but after a few goes at playing it on the C melody, it did feel comfortable enough. So before I put myself through this saxophone-based ordeal, I was pretty sure that Tram was playing C melody on Singin the Blues. After going through it all, I'm still pretty sure it's C melody, but now I feel like I've got more reasons for feeling that way. Does it matter though? Not really. Just like arguing over whether William Shakespeare really wrote his plays or not, it's a distraction from the main point, which is that it's an absolutely fantastic bit of saxophone playing. Go and listen to the whole record now. You'll hear what I mean.